to this class. Did you all get a handout? Okay, please use this handout and take notes as we go along. Okay. This is Understanding Soil English for Class A Teachers. Now, this presentation will be filmed and put on our website. The primary purpose is for resources for Class A teachers and also for foreign teachers who work in our schools throughout Korea. So there's a little bit of a focus on them and also Class A teachers. Okay? So, let's see. Welcome. Okay. My name is Todd, and I've been in education for over 7 years in the U.S. and also in Korea. My wife and I came to Korea in 2009 to teach, and then I got a job with Seoil English, especially at Seoil System, which is where we make our multimedia programs and books. I'm an editor there, and also I work with some writers overseas, things like that. Okay? Now, what are we doing here? Maybe some more detail. I want to help you to understand Seoil's methodology. Why is our program this way? And more details on why we do things this way. To give you resources for Class A. Okay. Some things may be a review, you may know already. Maybe some things will be new. Okay. To show you higher level activities. So in the second hour, I want to show you activities for higher level students and also some parts of our course series that are for higher level students. Okay? Also, I want to introduce you to Seoil's website and some new things that are happening on our website and data center. And also, I want to encourage you to be a better teacher. Okay? Though I'm not teaching now, I do enjoy teaching a lot. I miss it a little bit. But I know it can be a struggle. So I want to encourage you in many ways to be better teachers. Okay. So I want to introduce Seoil English, a little bit about Seoil English. First, for some of you who may not know, what are we about? Okay? Obviously there's a lot of multimedia you see in these pictures. Now the history of Seoil English. Briefly, I'm just going to give you the history of our company. In 1989, Seoil was established. Okay? So we have a fairly long history. In 1992, Seoil developed a CD-ROM for English study. Remember, CD-ROMs were very popular back then. And next. In 1998, Seoil developed Let's Go. Let's Go is published by Oxford University, and we made a Korean version of that. In 2001, the Ministry of Education commissioned Seoil to make a CD-ROM for elementary school textbooks. And in 2003, we had some patents registered for multimedia, and the multimedia we use now is patented, many parts of it. In 2008, we reached over 350 franchise schools in Korea. Okay. And Seoil has developed over 20 multimedia programs with accompanying textbooks. Okay? And I work closely with the development of these programs. Does this look familiar? Right. Okay, so these are all the programs. I'm sure you're very familiar with them. There's even chapters in each of these, so it's a pretty complex program. But today I want to focus on one particular part. Do you know what this is? What do we call this?
Course.
Right, course series. The course series. So today we're going to focus on course series, right? Class A. Do you remember the levels and the names? Do you know them? What's the first one?
Base camp.
Base camp. What's next? Okay, good. What's next? Very good. And? Good. Finally? Yeah, Summit, our newest one. Great. Now, I want to talk about teaching English in Korea. Now, this is from a foreigner's viewpoint, okay? So, this is particularly for foreign teachers. It's not always easy to teach English in Korea. Now, we need to understand the difficulties for students with English. So, now English and Korean have different structures, right? So from my viewpoint, I see honorifics, speech levels based on age, gender vocabulary differences, things like that. All of these are very different than English. In Korea, there's little use of English. There's kind of a struggle in Korea. There's homogenization of culture versus globalization. So their desire to learn English is there,
What
but
homogenization means?
global, what's that?
Homogenization.
Homogenizing, bringing the culture together, preserving tradition, things like that. So there's a desire to learn more English, but there's also still quite a bit of use of Korean everywhere. And also there's a lot of Konglish, right? I searched a word list of Konglish words, and even I'm using Konglish now regularly. So be aware of Konglish. I have a Konglish test. This is only for foreign teachers. Apatu. Did I say that? Do you know what that means? Apartment, right? Apartment. So this is Konglish, not English. This is English. Apartment. Remocon. Alright, what is remocon? Right. I've never heard remocon before until I came to Korea.
Do you like it though?
Huh?
Do you like it?
Yeah, I guess so. Some Konglish words I like. Some I use a lot. Service. What is this? You know? Service. But even this we don't use in America. We say free of charge. So when you go to the market and you get something extra, they say service, free of charge. Aircon, air conditioner, right. So remember, there's a long list. Why don't you search on the internet sometime, a list of Konglish words. Now remember, this is not English, okay? It's even I get tempted to let students speak Konglish. Chocolate is the proper term. So just be aware of that. It's easy to pick up on that. So difficulties for foreign teachers, okay? It can be a little stressful here in Korea. Maybe you don't speak Korean, and students know that. So discipline can be a problem with students, right? They take advantage of a foreign teacher. It may be difficult to keep students engaged. That's a problem for any teacher. For foreign teachers, there's cultural differences as well, which can be very difficult. And maybe some little experience teaching, and different ideas about teaching, okay? So the Western mindset versus the Korean mindset is a little bit different. Many teachers come here and they wonder what their role is. What is their role? Are they a lecturer? Facilitator? In other words, think of your pair work activity, that's facilitating. Or are they an entertainer? Sometimes teachers feel like just an entertainer, just to keep them happy, right? There's different ideas about teacher talking time versus student talking time. In the West, it's very different. It's student focused, whereas traditional ideas in Korea are focused on teacher talking time. Is teaching English about memorization, mindless rote memorization, or is it about communication skills? What are our priorities? And then the casual style versus formal style. You know, in the US, people are very casual. You know, in Korea, not so much. So the traditional teaching method, tell me if I'm right. In Korea, it's traditionally lecture-based, teaching in general. Grammar-focused, translation-focused, right? Reading and writing has been a priority. So the result is great reading skills, but the communication skill is a little low. So the ideas about teaching in Korea are changing. So there's more of a need for speaking practice. So many students are sent overseas, right? Parents are seeking out hagwons with foreign teachers or more speaking-based activities. And this, you know what this is? NEET. NEET. Have you been hearing about this? Okay. So it's a National English Ability Test. It's a national test that is starting this year. So it focuses on more real speaking activities like TOEFL or TOEIC. So students need to prepare for that. Okay? Now I want to talk about ESL versus EFL. Okay? You may want to start taking notes in this portion. We're going to start heading into our methodology here. So what's the difference between ESL and EFL? ESL, English as a second language. It's English for students living in an English-speaking country. So if any of you have studied English overseas, you are studying ESL. EFL is English as a foreign language. So this is English for students living in a country where English is not the primary language. So why does this difference matter? ESL students interact with English outside of school, right? And their daily homework, it's not real homework, but they have homework every day because they're interacting with native speakers. They're learning pronunciation, tone, inflection, even common phrases that are things that you just do not learn in an EFL environment. So EFL students only interact with English at school. The teacher represents all the aspects of the English language. So there's a big responsibility. So it's important for teachers and for interaction. So ESL is immersion, everyday practice, and EFL is a classroom-only, limited practice. So it's very important for the teacher to be involved. Now Korea is an EFL environment, okay? It shouldn't be confused with ESL ideas. So it's limited speaking. So how do we successfully teach EFL? First, let's talk about ESI theory. Now, please take notes about this theory. It'll lead into the methodology for Class A and for what you're doing. Now, this is a theory for teaching in an EFL environment. ESI, the E means exposure. 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 What's exposure? You are getting information. You're exposed to something. Self-training. Self-training. I. Interaction. So you're starting to see some familiar ideas. So exposure. Exposure is, as we say, training the ears. Training the ears. So this is exposing students to what native speakers say. Okay? So students should be exposed regularly to what native speakers say. They're training their ears. Next is self-training. Training the mouth. So exposure, training the ears. Self-training, training the mouth. Now students are practicing what they hear. Okay? So they hear and they repeat. And it's self-training. Interaction. So it's not useful just to hear and speak, but we need to have training with real-life conversation. Okay? So you're learning something, you're practicing it, but there needs to be interaction, so it's meaningful. So students are applying what they learn to real conversation. So this may sound familiar, so we're going to talk about Seoil's teaching method. Okay, I want you all to be very familiar. This is really important for understanding why we're doing what we do. So the three components of Seoil's teaching method, the first is input. Second is output. And reading and writing practice. So this is how we use the ESI theory. So input. This is lab class, okay? Students listen to sentences and repeat them with a multimedia program, right? You should be familiar with that. And the goal, listen and repeat with a native speaker in the multimedia program. So they're being exposed and they're also repeating it. And we're using pictures. And there's an important reason why we use pictures, right? We don't want them to translate. Output, Class A. Students demonstrate knowledge of what they've learned. Okay, so just to say it is not helpful. They need to know. That comes through interaction. So they interact with the teacher. And then reading and writing practice. Of course, you need to learn reading and writing after hearing it and speaking it. But we encourage them to sound out while they're writing. So they're still using that same listening, input, and output. A very simple goal of reading and writing. So this is the class schedule. Please fill in, you'll see it here, this portion. So we have lab class. This is our typical schedule. It can change based on your needs and your students. Okay? So lab class, you interact with the multimedia. Hearing the native speaker speak and you repeat. Okay? Self-training. And then activities, self-training, and homework. Okay? And then Class A. So this is what we're focusing on today. Class A. We'll talk about this more, but it's follow me, Q&A, pair work, game activity. Okay? So fill in those portions. Follow me, Q&A, pair work, game activity. And so that's interacting with the teacher. And then Class B is reading and writing practice. And we won't focus on that too much right now. So that's the schedule. And this is curriculum. So curriculum is what they're learning. So we have the schedule, and then what they're learning. This is an example. So in lab class, let's say they're learning pattern 3 of base camp. Okay? Pattern 3 in action. So maybe the next day or the next class would be, class A would be pattern 3 in action. So it's the same. They're learning the same thing. What they just learned, they're now interacting with. So they've listened, repeated, and now they're interacting. And then class B is a previous lesson, a review time. But we're focusing on class A right now. Does this all look familiar to you? Yeah? Okay. I have a quick question. Some people may think lab class is rote memorization. What does that mean? Just repeating, oh, these are robots. This is a car. Teacher, what am I saying? I don't know. Mindless repetition. So are we creating just English robots? Mindless. Well, if it was just lab class, maybe. But class A is important because it solves the problem of mindless repetition. Okay? So class A is supposed to be, your job is speaking with comprehension. Okay? Your goal is to get students to understand what they've been repeating over and over and over again. Okay? So let's go over class A. Okay? The class A methodology. So, of course, it's the I of the ESI theory applied. What was it? What was the I? Interaction. Right. Interaction. So it's student-focused. So student talking time. Not teacher talking time, not lecture. Student output. Okay? You want to get the students to talk as much as possible. And it's practicing real conversations in class. At the lower level, yeah, the conversations are very simple, but you know if they understand. So you're the one having the conversation with them. Utilizing sentences in various activities. Sometimes it's easier for students just to say the word, just one word. But even from the lowest level, they should be using full sentences, even if they're basic. Okay? So I encourage you to really have the students focus on sentences. And practicing to express oneself in English. So we want them to express themselves, to talk about, eventually talk about themselves. So again, here's the schedule. Follow me and I'll talk about these more. Follow me. Q&A. Pair work. And game activity. Okay? So I'm going to talk about these some more right now. These times are just suggestions. Okay?